Hey everybody, I am Surbhi and you are watching Key Differences. In this video, we are going to talk about the difference between parliamentary and presidential form of government. So friends, what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Parliamentary form of government. Parliamentary government implies a democratic system of government wherein the party that succeeds in winning the elections, that is, the party which gets majority seats in the parliament or legislature, forms the government. Now this majority party will choose a leader who is called as the Prime Minister or Chancellor. So the chief executive is not elected directly by the people, rather he is normally the leader of the majority party. Also, the other high-ranking members will constitute the cabinet and the minority party constitutes the opposition. But what if no party wins majority seats? In such cases, few parties will come together to form a coalition government. Now, we will look at the features of parliamentary form of government. Two executive heads. In this form of government, there are two executive heads, that is, the head of the state and the head of the government. While the head of the state is the nominal head, the head of the government is the real head. Head of the state is the symbolic representative and his role is non-political and formal. The head of the state can be either hereditary or elective. In countries like United Kingdom, Belgium, Spain, Denmark, etc., the head of the state is the constitutional monarch, which implies that the position is held by hereditary succession. Whereas in countries like India, Germany, Italy, Austria, Ireland, etc., there is an elected head of the state called as president. The head of the government, on the other hand, is a political leader of the government, who is the real executive of the state. He has the power to take decisions. Further, the head of the government is called Prime Minister in India, Britain, Australia and Japan, while he is known as Chancellor in countries like Germany and Austria. Next, fusion of executive and legislative branches. In a parliamentary form of government, the separation of powers between executive and legislative branches is not clear. This is because executive, that is the cabinet or the council of ministers including the prime minister, is chosen from the legislature and remains accountable to it. Also, the formation of the new government takes place after it secures a vote of confidence from the legislature. Now what is vote of confidence? Vote of confidence is the vote by majority of the members of the legislature expressing their support for the new Prime Minister and his/her cabinet. Also, the members of the executive are answerable to the legislature regarding the activities of the concerned ministries. The legislature has the power to remove the government before the completion of its term by passing a no confidence motion. Moreover, the Prime Minister can dissolve legislature before the expiry of its term and call for new elections. Next, collective responsibilities. The whole Council of Ministers must support all government decisions, both publicly as well as in legislature. This implies that the Council of Ministers are equally responsible for all the acts of the government and no member can severely criticize the act of the government after the policy decision is taken. In short, the Council of Ministers are bound to support the policy decisions taken by the government. And any member who cannot support the government decisions in the legislature or in public has to resign from the Council of Ministers. Next, leadership of the head of the government. As already said, in a parliamentary form of government, the real power lies in the hands of the Prime Minister or Chancellors. On the advice of the Prime Minister, the President appoints the ministers and other high-ranking officials of the central government. He or she is the one who allocates or reshuffles portfolios among ministers. He has the power to dismiss ministers, dissolve legislature. He can also summon and prorogue parliament sessions. Moving on to presidential form of government. Presidential government is that form of government wherein the president stands as the chief executive of the state. Also, he or she is elected directly by the people. In this system, the three bodies of the government works independently of each other. And so, no branch can dismiss or dissolve each other. In short, there is mutual independence between the two. Further, it is the responsibility of the president to enforce law, while it is the legislature that makes those laws. And the courts are there to provide justice. Therefore, each body is given specific powers to check and balance each other. Further, the executive and legislative branches of the government are elected separately and have independent powers. Presidential form of government can be found in countries like America, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Maldives, Philippines, etc. Now let's talk about its features. Single executive head. In this system, there is single elected person who is the president. So, the president is both the head of the state and the head of the government. He is the one who directs the government, exercise political responsibilities, as well as he performs ceremonial duties. Mutual independence. There is a clear division of powers and responsibilities among the three branches of the government, that is, legislature, executive, and judiciary. This means that the executive, that is, the president and the cabinet, is not drawn from the legislature. Rather, they both, that is, the president and the legislature, are elected separately in their own elections. Moreover, the president is directly accountable to the electorate and not to the legislature. This is because the president is elected by the people either directly or through electoral college. Also, the legislature cannot remove the president before the expiry of his/her term. However, in exceptional circumstances, this is possible by the process of impeachment. Look at another way, the president also cannot dissolve the legislature before the expiry of its term. Besides, the members of the executive cannot become the members of the legislature and vice versa. President and Cabinet. The President is free to choose and appoint cabinet ministers and form the government. These cabinet ministers play the role of policy advisor and they are individually accountable to the President. And because the President is politically responsible to the people, he or she has the complete authority to appoint or dismiss cabinet ministers who share no decision-making powers with him or her. Lawmaking authority. The lawmaking authority with the executive branch is far less due to the mutual independence of the three branches with regard to the selection, tenure and membership. The legislature are more independent lawmaking body. Next, fixed term of office. Here both president and legislature have definite term of office. This implies that neither can remove the other prior to the completion of its term. The president is elected for a definite term which may vary from 4 to 6 years. Also, the term of president does not rely on the legislative support and according to this, the president cannot be removed before the expiry of the term. In the same manner, the president cannot dissolve legislature and remove its members before the completion of their term. Moving on to the difference between parliamentary and presidential form of government. Meaning, parliamentary form of government is that system in which the legislative and executive branches of the government are closely related to each other, while the judiciary branch is independent. In this system, the citizens elect their representatives to the legislative and the party that gets majority votes forms the government. On the other hand, presidential form of government is one in which the three bodies of the government are independent of each other. Here the president is the chief executive who is elected directly by the citizens. Next, executive. In a parliamentary form of government, there are two executives, that is, the head of the state, who is the president, and the head of the government, who is the prime minister. On the contrary, in a presidential form of government, there is only one chief executive, who is the president. Next, in case of parliamentary form of government, the real powers lies in the hands of prime minister, whereas in case of a presidential form of government, the real power lies in the hands of president. Next, accountability to legislature. In a parliamentary form of government, the executive body, which comprises of the Council of Ministers or Cabinet, including the Prime Minister, is accountable to the legislature for all its acts. Conversely, in case of presidential form of government, there is no such accountability. That is, the executive body is not accountable to the legislature for its acts. Next, election. In parliamentary form of government, the head of the government, that is the Prime Minister, is the leader of the majority party, whereas in case of presidential form of government, the head, that is the president, is directly elected by the people. Next, ministers. In a parliamentary system, only members of parliament are appointed as ministers, as against in a presidential system, persons outside the legislature are appointed as ministers. Powers. Fusion of powers of legislative and executive branch of the government exist in a parliamentary system, whereas the powers of executive and legislative organs of the government are separated in case of presidential system. Tenure of executive. The tenure of the executive is not fixed in case of parliamentary system because if a no confidence motion is passed, then the entire council of ministers or cabinet, including the prime minister, has to resign. In contrast, the tenure of executive in case of presidential system is fixed. Next, dissolution of legislature. The Prime Minister can dissolve the legislature before the expiry of its term, but the President cannot dissolve the legislature before the expiry of its term. So friends, this brings me to the end of this lesson. I hope the concept has been clear now. However, if you want to study the topic further in detail, you can visit our official website, that is keydifferences.com. Here you can find a detailed comparison of parliamentary and presidential form of government along with their definitions. Links are also provided in the description box below. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please do give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, if you are new to this channel and wanna get more such useful videos, consider subscribing this channel and also hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button so that you are notified every time whenever a new video is uploaded on this channel. And if you have any queries or feedback for me, feel free to leave in the comment section below. Until next time, this is me Surbhi signing off.